Daf Tesvav Amud Beis, the second line from the top. We learned previously that the procedure for the Zrikas Hadam for the Tomid, according to the Chachamim, he does Shnaim Shein Harba on the northeast corner, and then he does it on the opposite corner, that is diagonally across from that. He does again Shnaim Shein Harba on the southwest corner. According to Rosh Hashanah Mitzvah, he says it's similar, but not exactly the same. He does Shnaim Shein Harba on the northeast, and then he does one by the corner, next to the corner of the west, and then to the south. He doesn't do Shnaim Shein Harba on the southwest. He does Shnaim Shein Shnaim on the south and on the west. So, the Gemara, according to Rosh Hashanah Mitzvah, it says, so we ask, why should he do the oila application first? First, he does the oila type application. He does Shnaim Shein Harba, which is the way you do it for an oila. And then he does one, and then another, two separate ones, which is the procedure for a chatas. On a chatas, it's Arba Shein Harba. So why does he first do the oila procedure and then the chatas procedure? Let him first do the chatas procedure, meaning that first do shnaim, do achas, then achas, and then do shnaim shein harba. More answers came Dovid. He called the ratio. Saif kol saif, it is a korban oil. So that is what its principal korban is. What the principal korban is. So it should have the ikr, the beginning of it, should be the procedure of an oila. And then, layered on top of that is the procedure of a chatas. But it is a korban oila. So therefore, he begins by doing Shnaim Shein Harba, which is the procedure for an oila. Why do we say that the opposite corners, he must do it on the opposite corners, the diagonally opposite corners, because he has to have it on all four sides of the Mizbeach. But why is it that he does the northeast and the southwest? Why don't we do the opposite? Nesiv Droimus Mizrachis, why doesn't he do the southeast? And then do the northwest. Our answer is Oila Tona Yisait. The Oila, it has to be where there's a base to the Mizbeach. So that's where the blood has to be. And the issue over here is V'keren Dreimus Mizrachis Le'havel Yisait. On the Dreimus Mizrachis, on the southeast, there was no Yisait. The Yisait was surrounded the Mizbeach, but starting from after the corner, from an amma beyond the corner of the southwest, as it comes around from the west around to the south, an amma that protrudes beyond on the south corner and beyond an amma, and then that whole strip going along the south side, wrapping around onto the east side until an amma before the corner of the north did not have the Yisait. As we learned previously, what the issue was the Mizbeach in the area of Shevet Binyamin and Shevet Yehuda, but Al Kol it did not have the Yisait. The Oila is to the Yisait. So you couldn't do it on the southeast corner, because the southeast corner there was no Yisait. So you have to do it, therefore, on the northeast corner. Well, still in the order of the Talmud, why is it that the blood was given first? Bereshim Mizrach, this form is on the northeast, Vahadar Marav is the Raimis, and then the southwest. Nesev Bereshim Marav is the Raimis. Why don't you do the first? Marav is the Raimis. Do first on the southwest. Vahadar Mizrach is finest, and then do the northeast. More answers, Kaven the Amar Mar, but since we learned that Kol Pina Shata Paina, Loyal Derchimin Lemizrach, any turn that was made while doing the avodah, they had to make a right turn. So Beresha, Mahu Paga, that's the first one he encounters. How was that? The Kevesh was on the south side of the Mizbeach. So it was on the south side. The Kohen who had to ascend the ramp, he went up the ramp in order to do the the hazoya, the application of the blood for a chatas, because the chatas is done on the top of the mizbeach. So he had to ascend it. He went up. Now, if he's on the ramp, is on the south side. As he climbs and goes up, he's facing north. He has to make a right turn. If he makes a right turn, then he's going east. The first corner that he encounters, therefore, is the southeast corner. So that's the first corner that he encounters, is the southeast. Now, he can't do the application of the dam on the southeast, because there's no yesod over there. So he has to go around the mizbeach, and then the next corner that he encounters is the northeast. Now, on the northeast, there was a yesod, so he did the application there. Then he has to come around the mizbeach, and he comes around to the opposite corner on the diagonal, which therefore is on the southwest. So that's why he did it in that order. Now, Rashi explains that, well, really this is relevant to the chatas, because the chatas he had to climb the kevesh, he had to ascend the ramp, the kevesh, and therefore in a right turn, he makes a right turn, he's going to the east. So the first corner that he encounters with the yesod is the northeast. But when he's doing the oila, he's not doing it at the top of the mizbeach. He doesn't have to ascend the ramp. So theoretically, this would not have to be the case. But nevertheless, we keep it consistent, and therefore we say that he starts off doing the applications in the east, because by the chatas, that's where he starts. So he does that in the other korbanos as well. Well, what are we saying? We're saying that the oila, the tomid, that you do the maisachatas. So he's saying that therefore on the applications of the south and the southwest, you don't do the southwest. It's not shtayim shenar, but it's like a chatas. It's the south and the west. Well, why is it that you say that the oila you apply, you layer on an avoid of the chatas on top of it? Why don't you say the opposite? Why don't you say the pasuk that he darshans it from is a pasuk by Rish Chodesh, and so Rosh Hashanah mitzvah darshan the pasuk by Rish Chodesh, which is talking about the soyer of the Rish Chodesh, and it says over there. So why do we say that the chatas, the mice of the chatas, should be layered onto the oil of the tomid? Why don't we say that it should be the opposite? Why don't we say that the mice of the application of the oila should be layered on to the chatas of the Rish Chodesh? The pasuk says a series of mechad lechatas l'Hashem al oilas hatomid yasaveniskai. So why do we say that we apply the avodah of the ser izim the chatas, the most of Rish Chodesh, onto the oil of the tomid? Say the opposite and say one of the corners of the chatas, or the ser lechatas, that it should be shtayim shenar, like the oil. The Gemara answers, no, you wouldn't say that, because the chsil al oilas hatomid yasaveniskai. It says al oilas hatomid, meaning the mice of the chatas is layered on to the oila of the tomid. So my karvamana needed the chatas shari oila, the application of the chatas, layer it on to the oila. Now the Gemara is going to begin a new sugya. Tanan also we learned in the Mishnah and Tomid. The Mishnah says, Amarlem Hamuna, the appointed Kohen, said to the other Kohanim, he said, Suvaviyot lamb, Elishka's Pesach lamb. He said, go and bring a lamb from the Lishka, from the chamber, the office where the tloim is. They had pre-checked lambs. They had pre-checked lambs that were used for the Talmud. They had to check them in advance to make sure there was no mum. There was an inventory of at least 6. And when it came time for the Talmud, he said, bring a lamb from the Lishkas HaTloim for the Hakrova of the Talmud. Now, the Lishkas HaTloim was in the northwest corner of what? Of the Beis HaMikdash. The Beis HaMikdash they had a big fire. It was a large area. The Kohanim used to warm themselves there. They used to walk barefoot on the floors. They warmed themselves there. This was in the north side of the Azara. It had chambers on 4 corners. Half of it was inside the Azara and half of it was outside the Azara. Va'arba lishkos hayusham, and there were 4 lishkos in the Beis HaMikdash. Achad lishkas atloim, one was the lishka, as we mentioned, atloim. V'achas lishkas achaysamas, the other one was the lishka where they had the receipts. Chaysamas are receipts. The person would bring his korban, and he had to bring the sochim, the flour, the wine, the oil. He paid for it. He got a receipt. Then he took the receipt to another kohen, and it was given the nesochim. And the kohen had the receipt, and they used to store the receipts in this chamber. Then they used to make an accounting afterwards, and make an accounting to ensure that the money was received that correspond to the amount of the receipts. V'achas lishkas Beis HaMikdash, and the other one was called the lishka of Beis HaMikdash. Now it also had a fire. So as the way Tosfos explains, they had also a fire there. Now this one was built outside, it was in the corner outside the Azor. If a kohen was Tomei, he went to be Toivel, and if he had a Tumas Keri, he went to be Toivel, and he went to the mikveh. It was outside the Azora, and then after he was Toivel, he was now warmed himself up over here in the fire of this Beis HaMikdash. So this was the Lishka Beis HaMikdash. Then it was also, they had Va'achas Lishka Shois Lechem Aponim, was where they baked the Lechem Aponim. So this is what it says where the Lishkas were, and now it says over here that the Lishka of the Tloim was in the Miksoya Tzfainis Ma'aravis, in the northwest. Bring minimum, I'll ask you a stira from the following Mishnah. Arba Lishkos Hayu Beis HaMikdash. There are 4 lishkas in the Beis HaMikdash. Kikitainis Absuchs L'Traklan. They were like different offices or suites that opened up into a hall or into a ballroom. Shtayim because Shtayim B'chol. 2 were outside the Azora, 2 were in the Kodesh, inside the Azora. But Rosh Epis B'sim Avdil Ben Kodesh L'Chol, and the top of posts separated between the area which was Kodesh, that part of it which was Kodesh, and that part which was Chol. Uma Yomi Masechet, and what did these chambers serve? What did they use these chambers for? Ma'arav is Droimis, the southwest was the Lishkas Loy Korban. That was the Lishkas Atloim. So here it says that the Lishkas Atloim was Ma'arav is Droimis, in the southwest. Now previously we learned that it was in the northwest, and here it says the southwest. So Ma'arav is from his eyes Lishkas Loy Korban. Then it continues and says, Droimis Mizrachias, the southeast. That was Vilishka Shayois and Bo Lechem Aponim. That's where they baked the Lechem Aponim. Mizrachis is the northeast. What was that? Bo Gonza Beis Chashmanoi, Avni Mizbeach, Shishaksa Malchi de Kechov. The Chashmanoim hid, they concealed the stones of the Mizbeach that the Avdei Vedazora, that they were shaksim, they defiled them. They were Oyer Vedazor over there, and they were mishakets them, so the Chashmanim had to remove that and build a new Mizbeach. But the ones of the old one, that shaksim, they hid, they concealed over in this Lishka. Tzvainis Ma'arav is the northwest, Bo Yordan Lebeis HaTfilah. Through there, they went down to the stairway into the mikveh and to the Beis HaTfilah. So we have an apparent stira into the location of the Beis HaTloim. So on the next Talmud, the Gemara will resolve that stira.